Update. I am joined by an old buddy of mine, the St. Louis legend, the congressional candidate in the 2nd District, Ray Hartman. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you made the time.
It's an honor. Isn't this called Midweek?
Midweek, yep.
Is this Midweek? You had a good weekend, I guess.
Well,
but this is Monday.
It's midweek for preachers, right?
Yeah, it's midweek. Yeah. I'll take it. I appreciate
midweek
it.
for a preacher.
Honored.
I'm already in my popcorn. Shout out to Tolson's here in downtown Jeff City. Ray, you're running for Congress. Why in the hell are you doing that?
Oh, I think it's a great opportunity for me to actually get involved in the system. I think I'm one of those people that thinks we need to change things. I will tell you what, I talk to people across the 2nd District.
Which goes from St. Louis to where?
Santa Fe, New Mexico. No, actually it goes to Sullivan, but I might add, it does not go to West Sullivan. It goes to Sullivan.
West Sullivan, yeah.
And I didn't even know there was. Now I know there's a West Sullivan. I didn't know they had a wall and everything like Berlin did. No, but West Sullivan's the 3rd district. Well, at least it's not the 2nd.
Well, it's in Crawford County.
Yeah, and Sullivan is the first. One thing, though, it's still a suburban district. If you look at the vote totals from the last election, 73% of the votes cast were in St. Louis County. And what a lot of people don't realize is 2/3 they gerrymandered it, and 2/3 of St. Charles County is not in the district. The only county that's fully in our district is Franklin County, where I'll be speaking.
Good folks, Germans.
You know what? My 4th trip will be on the way home from world headquarters here. I'm stopping in Union, Missouri, and I'm at a forum in the community college. 4th trip.
Can I give you some talking points for Franklin County?
Please do.
So before you ran for Congress, Dave Henson was still a commissioner. And after you announced your campaign, he's run off to Colorado. You got rid of Dave Henson from Franklin County. If I were you, that's all I'd say. I'd just be I got rid of Henson, full stop.
I don't like to boast. But no, I'm running because I think I happen to believe we're at a big time in our country where we need people who are not politicians to come in and people I talk to in the district. Yeah, there's issues. And then, my biggest issue is I'm pro-choice and Wagner's pro-life. That's certainly.
But let's talk about your background.
Let me finish.
But I gotta bet I gotta win here with John Lamping.
Okay.
You actually used to work for someone. I'm not trying to drop a hint here with my Kit Bond.
I don't remember.
Who'd you used to work for?
Are you talking about like the Albany Knickerbocker News in New York? No, not that one.
No, it's maybe. Maybe.
One of the I worked, I'm proud to say, as a speechwriter in 75, 76 for Kit Bond.
Do we make it, Kelton?
You were so close.
Oh,
no, you missed it. You didn't get your bet.
See, Charlie Brennan warned me about you. It's hard to have you on the show because you just talk. And now I owe Lamping $20 now.
Kit Bond was one of the great. Is one of the great public servants ever in Missouri. Now, he was Republican. I did, and I don't like to brag. I did such a really extraordinary job as a speechwriter that the voters elected Joe Teasdale. That's when I came back to St. Louis and started the Riverfront Times.
I believe you were the first to work. You worked on the only campaign for a governor to lose re-election that ran for re-election, maybe in Missouri history.
That may be.
Because you couldn't run for re-election until Hearns, and he got re-elected.
I've got a unique skill set.
You want some popcorn, by the way?
No, thank you.
All right.
But Kit put me on the State Tourism Commission from 81 to 83. And
is that when the Party Cove got started down at the lake?
Yeah, we started it. We actually cut the ribbon.
Great work, great work.
The kids.
14-year-old Scott Faughn on the desk, he thinks you're the man.
I don't talk about Kit in the context of my race, but I will tell you, we need more people like Kit Bond in government. And one of the things I really mean is people want, aside from the issues, and I told you that people want somebody that they can trust, that says the truth. I think people that, and I think we need that in Washington. So that's why I'm running.
Let me break it down.
Sure.
I respect Ann Wagner. I like Ann Wagner. No just that. You're running as a Democrat on a Democrat platform, right?
Sure.
And the top issue, you caught a break. When you told me he was doing this, I was like, now why in the hell are you doing that? But you got a break. The abortion issue, I've watched this in Missouri. Everybody tells me, this is the year Democrat. Women in the suburbs are going to start voting Democrat. They're going to start voting Democrat. And Trump's such an ass, he's going to make people vote Democrat on him. Right. And it just hasn't happened.
Right.
However, I will say this. With Right to Work, it was on in August. Minimum wage hikes, all these things that were popular with the voters. It's in the 2nd Congressional District.
Right.
They were, and frankly, we live in a very busy time. And by the time it got around to November, it feels like people just didn't remember it anymore.
Right.
The abortion thing is on the November ballot.
Right.
I think that makes a difference and gives you a better shot. Am I wrong?
I think you're right. But there's a bigger issue, and I don't want to get too personal with you. Ann Wagner,
I've had a vasectomy and been born, so you can talk about abortion all you want.
Ann Wagner has been in office for 12 years. Let me ask you a question. How many World Series have the Cardinals won in 12 years?
Oh, that's dirty. That's dirty.
How many?
Oh, none.
Thank you.
You're with the cabbage.
If I'm elected, I'll tell you what you're going to be doing in October, November. You and I are going to the World Series in 25.
So, guys,
right.
That's a pro.
That's personal.
That's a pro promise right there.
That's personal.
That is a pro move.
So anyway,
if you're running for office this year, watch what he just did. Write it down. Studied it. If you teach at one of these colleges and you want to teach the kids how to run for office, put this on the board. What he just did. Chef's kiss.
Thank you. I think it's a big issue. But I will tell you, you know her. You know Ann Wagner.
Very well.
And guess who doesn't? The people in the district. And I hear that from Republicans and Democrats. Not saying anything bad about her personally. She has been there 12 years. All kidding aside, 0 times, 0 debates, 0 town halls that weren't like scripted and controlled by her staff.
Isn't every town hall kind of the only person I've ever seen
no,
do a real town hall is Claire
debates?
McCaskill.
Well, let's talk about debates. Do you think it's okay?
Claire McCaskill used to do actual town halls, and they were a bloodbath.
Thank you. All right, but fine, but she did them. And the point is, and I will tell you what, if I do them, you think they're going to be like, if I win, or even if I don't win.
If it was scripted, you go off the script anyway. It wouldn't even matter. So if they had a script, it would be less scripted.
I talk too much?
I'm saying you couldn't follow a script. If you did script the damn thing, it would be more unscripted than if you just let you go.
I also couldn't write a script, obviously. But no, no, I'm serious. She has, and I think I will tell you this, it's disrespectful. I don't care what party you're in. A politician that for 12 years won't debate their opponent is disrespectful, not to the opponent, but to the voters. Voters have I think you have an obligation, if you're in public life, to be willing to put yourself out there with your opponent. And let me give you, we'll make news here on the midweek show.
I love that.
This is a challenge. I will challenge Ann Wagner here. I will debate her anytime, anywhere, on any subject, with any moderator of her choosing, and maybe Scott Faughn. You invite her on here, I will be happy anytime, any subject, anywhere, any subject, right here.
The funny part
and I do it. I mean, why not?
I actually believe if you debated Ann Wagner, you'd be a gentleman and you'd be a statesman about it. And you disagree with her. But I think it would actually be you and her, and a lot of it comes from, I mean, you have a great advantage in this race, as you've been one of the founders of Donnybrook. Right. So you're very well known to a lot of folks, and especially civic-minded people in the district. The PBS affiliate goes well into Franklin County, right? It catches the whole district, I assume.
It goes the entire district.
Yeah. I think your background in television, your obviously ability to I was on, you had a radio show for a while. I was on. I think it could actually be one of the rare times where it'd be an actual debate over issues. Let me just start. If I was asking you a question,
right?
The biggest issue to me, to your campaign, is going to be abortion.
Sure.
Why are you pro-choice?
I believe that when a woman becomes pregnant in our country, the next thing that happens should be up to her exclusively. I do not believe any government, state or federal, any politician should have anything to say about what she does with regard to.
Well, let me ask you where, to me, the rubber meets the road. Now, take rape, incest, all the extreme 1% stuff about it. Let's just talk hogs, dogs, and logs. Do you think if a person is out and has a consensual evening of sex that results in an unplanned pregnancy, do you think it'd be wrong to abort that baby because of convenience of life?
You know what? I think it's up when I'll say
I'm
it
not
again.
saying legal or illegal.
No.
I'm saying, do you think it's wrong?
I don't have an opinion. It's not my baby. I'm not a woman. Let me tell you something. If a woman I'll say it again. If a woman gets pregnant, it isn't for you to judge. It isn't for me to judge. My opinion doesn't matter. What your opinion doesn't matter. The government's opinion matters. And here's the deal. The problem is when you start getting into this, is it right? Is it wrong? You know what? There's a religious point of view driving this discussion about, there's a religion's point of view driving the discussion of when life begins. Okay, that's a religious argument. What's interesting to me is I don't think you want to have a state religion. I don't want to have a state religion. And my point is this: the whole subject of when life begins, what the state is an embryo. You know, Nikki Haley said, "I believe an embryo is a person." Okay, that's a religious belief. Now, the one thing I will not do in a debate with Ann Wagner, with you or anybody else, is say, "Ann, you're wrong." In other words, I do not,
and I respect that about you.
I don't say, I would never look at somebody. Let me finish.
I want to parse your answer though, because I asked you a question. To me, there's two questions here. One is, should something be illegal, which is a political question, and two, do you think having an abortion because you go out with a woman? If I called you up and said, "Ray, I need to have beer with you," this gal, I've only seen her a couple times. She's pregnant. She wants to know what I think. Gosh, Ray, what do I do? To me, to encourage that abortion, I think my mama would think is wrong.
You know what I think?
That's a separate question of should it be illegal.
It's none of my business. That's my answer.
Well, if I came to you and said, "Ray, gosh,
no, it's none of my business.
Need some advice."
It's none of your. No, it's none of. I would literally say that to you. As
it's not even my business if it's my baby.
It's not. If it's my baby, it's my business. It ain't mine. It ain't going. I don't think it's gonna happen.
So, to me, they're two different questions.
No, it's none of your business. It's none of mine. And my point is, I'm not going to take debate on that question. Not because I'm ducking it.
Well,
it's no. I don't mean that. But I'm just saying it is genuinely none of my business. And here's the problem.
I'm agreeing with you, Ray. I think there's two different questions here. Is something right or wrong is one question. Should something be illegal is a totally separate debate.
I agree with you, but I think that in either case, the answer is the same. And that's my whole point. Is it isn't your business. And one of the things I talked to a couple people in Franklin. I've been out in Franklin. It's my fourth trip, and people have been so nice. And by the way, you mentioned
go to Marquardt's Landing.
I'll give you an example where everybody thinks I can't. I hear, she's an incumbent. She got the money.
Well, you're the underdog. Let's be honest.
Of course, I'm the underdog. Yeah. But the point is, I did a speech. This is a week ago Saturday. A group of, I think it's called the Four Rivers Democrats, out in Washington, Missouri. I drove, it's a good drive for me from where I live in St. Charles County. And I did it, which is fine. And they invited me to speak on a beautiful day, 10 a.m. in a Washington Public Library. And I figured it'd be 15 people probably. I'll go out and just say, I'm not, without exaggeration, and I don't exaggerate, there were 70 people on a Saturday morning, and almost all of them were there because they watched Donnybrook. That's how and so my point is, I'm not. How long
did you do Donnybrook for?
37 years. And you know what bothers me, though? I got to say, I know we're not live, are we?
We are absolutely live.
Okay, well, then we're at least, can I say something off the record?
Yeah.
It bothers me a lot that I was on 37 years. A week after I got off the show, they were billing it as the new improved Donnybrook. I mean, I didn't like that. New improved Donnybrook. I mean, they had to do that to me. No, okay. Anyway,
I saw those, and I'll be honest with you. I as a watcher of Donnybrook.
Oh. That's fine.
It's certainly new. I think improved is an objective.
I'm kidding. That was a joke. I'm kidding. No, but the point is, I think those guys are great. This is my family. Don't talk about my family. But no, and I miss them. I will tell you, I don't miss talking about city and county issues. I'm happy to do what I'm doing. But I really mean this, Scott. I think that people, and everywhere I've talked to people, they want somebody they can trust. Who talks their language, who doesn't talk like a politician. And Ann Wagner, interestingly, has changed, in my opinion. She came into office in 12 years ago.
Really?
Yes, I do.
If there's one person I know in politics, it ain't changed a lick.
No, okay. Well, let me say this. And I'm not saying it.
Ann would tell you to go to hell just as fast today as she would a dozen years ago. Now, she has not won a World Series. That's a fact.
There's that.
But I think Ann will tell you to go piss off.
She came in. You can look it up. She said she was not a career politician, which they all say. Everybody comes in.
Well, you're going to say that, probably.
I do say that. I'm not a career politician. I say that. I'm not a career
Why don't you
politician.
say swamp?
Did I mention I work for Kit Bond and that the Cardinals haven't won a World Series in 12 years? No, Ann Wagner, when she came in, had a very moderate persona, and except on the short, she was pro-life very intensely. And she had been 20 years earlier
very pro-life. She
wasn't new to politics. She was the Bush Quayle, Missouri chairman, and then she was the chair of the state party.
Like Roy Blunt.
Very much involved in politics. And by the way, the fact that she's had a career in politics is no disgrace.
So you two share working for Kit Bond.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Both Kip Bond alumni.
And let me tell you something. She graduated from Mizzou about 10 years behind me. She's a fine person. I even tell audiences that I do not hate Ann Wagner. I said, and I talk about Democrats. I said, if you're looking for somebody that's going to hate on Ann Wagner, you came to the wrong place. I disagree with her. My whole brand, if you follow Donnybrook, is about disagreeing, often loudly, often talking too much.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we're a family. We love each other. Martin Dugan, who I used to argue with, and we did our act on the road. Really one of the dearest friends I've ever had in my life. And in fact, my big regret is he's not here to vote against me. But the fact is he died 10 years ago at too young at 93. And seriously, Martin, that's who I am. And so I'm going to hate on her. But I will say this, she came in as a more moderate persona kind of Republican. If you look at today, and I know you like your boy Trump, but the bottom line is this. For her to be out there, she caught in 2000, she was still moderate, kind of, when she said Donald Trump was reprehensible and a predator.
Let me ask you a question. Is Ann Wagner moderate? Or
she's
does
not
she
moderate
just
now.
tell you what she thinks?
No, she doesn't. That's my point. She used to. And now I really believe when she came into the office in 2013, she actually was more like that. People change. And in her defense, she didn't change as much as politics changed her. But now to survive in Trump world, all of a sudden, the guy she called a reprehensible predator in 2016, this isn't digging up some dirt. In 2016, she was one of the only members of Congress on the Republican side, had the guts to stand up. And you know what she said? He needs to step off the ticket, right? The day after Hollywood, Access Hollywood. Now, this is the same person.
Do you think bashing Trump's a good strategy in the second?
Here's a question. What?
Do you think Trump's going to win the second?
Yeah, I think it's too close to call. I'm not going to say, I'm not bashing Trump here. I'm talking about her.
Wouldn't have won the second until they convicted him. Then I'm like, I think he's going to win.
You know what? I'm not going to do any predictions about him, her, me.
But you think it's a good campaign strategy, though, to dog Trump out?
I'm not dogging him out. I'm pointing out something real specific about Ann Wagner. Yeah. She called him predatory. She called him reprehensible. Yeah. And she invoked her work on behalf of sex trafficking victims when she did it. Now, my point is, fine, now people change. But today, she's not. She went a long time just sort of keeping her head down. Now she's out there. She did a speech in February saying he's the only one who can save our country. And that's when Nikki Haley was still in the race. She's all of a sudden now, she defends his convictions. Now, I know you, but my point is.
I'm with her on that. I think that was bullshit.
Okay.
I also think Hunter Biden's was bullshit.
Okay, fine. But to answer your question, no, I'm not talking about Trump much. I'm not afraid. I've had 5 different people in the last month tell me they're going to vote for Trump and me. Okay, for real. And the reason they are is
number of ex-wives.
Huh?
Number of ex-wives?
No. That the reason they're going to vote for Trump and
now
me,
you're speaking my language.
Okay, they're going to vote for Trump because they're for Trump. And I asked them, I said, what do you, and a couple of them volunteered because they knew me from Donnybrook. Mm-hmm. And Ann Wagner's weakness in their mind, and I think, is they don't see her. They've never seen her in the district. And they want somebody who stands up for them. And I think there's a difference, and doesn't make her evil, but you just can't get away from the reality. You know her, you feel one way because she talks to you. You know her. I am telling you, whether you talk to Republicans or Democrats in that district, she's doing a few photo ops now that the election's coming. She has a long-term reputation across party lines for not being there. And it's kind of hard to argue with, Scott. It's just, and again, it really is disrespectful when you aren't willing to put yourself out there without a net. And you should debate. Look, now if I was some kind of fringe candidate that had no chance, that'd be one thing. You owe it. I'll just keep it. It's disrespectful to your voters not to let you see them debate an opponent.
All right, let me ask you a couple campaign. Like, are you going to debate your primary opponent?
I've already told him if he wants to. I'm not going to go looking for him, but sure. Yeah. And by the way, he's got a name. I saw. Don't mention his name. Name's Chuck Summers.
Yeah.
Chuck Summers. He's got a name. Right. And the pros in politics that pretend he doesn't exist. Look. And by the way, he's a union man, and and he's a proud union retired plumber. He's in Oakville, but the AFL-CIO endorsed me last week. Which, even though he's a union man, and I was in the guild in night before you were born and the newspaper reporter, but I was a guild member. My son's in the
After I lost
my
bet.
son's in the grocers worker union. But the point is,
UFCW.
Yeah.
Do you know what this is? This is all of the buttons people send me.
Yeah, yeah.
At the bottom here is it. Dave Cook
You
gave
got
me this UFCW scarf. They used to have a thing here
Yeah,
before the reformers
Dave
screwed
Cook, I
everything
was
up.
talking to. Yeah.
They
Good
ain't
guy.
a better guy. All right, let me ask you this: got to raise money. That's just politics.
Yep.
You know that.
Yep.
You've commentated on races.
Right.
You gonna be able to put together the money to win this?
I think so. I'm raising it now. I mean, we're not. We'll let you know at the end of the quarter, but
Okay.
I am raising money, and I think I will say that I've got I'll just leave it at that. I have a real possibility of getting the DCCC involved, and I won't get too specific. But
Well,
I'm
that's
working
one of
on
those things.
it. And that's a big deal.
You got to get this race to
Right.
sometime in September to where you're within striking distance.
Mhm.
And the abortion thing,
Right.
you're hoping gives you a little air to get there.
Yeah.
That'd be the trajectory.
The one thing I won't do is make a prediction. I will say this: I'm working. I have nothing else to do. 168 hours minus sleep, and I am very encouraged by the reception I've gotten. You know, I tell people I've been a Democrat for 10 long weeks. Okay, so and I don't pretend to be. I have a lot of faults. You know many of them better, and hopefully you won't air them all here. But one of them isn't in BSing people. I am who I am. The best compliment I get, Scott, is when people come up to me in a grocery over the years I'm talking about and say, "You're Ray Hartman, aren't you?" And that's an insult. And then they say, I don't agree with you very often, but I like you and I like your show. I like the way you guys debate. That's the best compliment I could get.
It is a terrific show.
But and I'm bringing,
You
Dottie,
should be very proud of the legacy you left.
well, I appreciate that. They're not, Donnybrook or PBS aren't endorsing me, but I will tell you, that's how I'm running. That's who I am. What you see is what you get. I tell the truth as I see it, and I'm not always right. Another thing I will say that I am willing to do, and I promise if I'm elected, I'll do, is when you're wrong, admit it. Just own up. So many people don't do that. I would argue my opponent, Mrs. Wagner, is one of those who, if she's wrong, we're all wrong. It's just like she's not any more wrong than anybody else. She's wrong. She won't admit it. The best example, the one if you want to know an issue that resonates all over the district, is those, the people we had thousands of our citizens poisoned by the federal government from the Manhattan Project with radioactive waste. This is not, to say it, on March. For the first time.
But you elect Cori Bush to Congress, and then you want the government to do something for you.
Excuse me. No. Let me tell you something.
I mean, St. Louisans are weird.
No.
You all are different, folks.
Okay, I will be different. I'm Abby Normal.
So you want an effective government, and you elect Cori Bush. How's that making any sense?
First of all, this guy doesn't do it.
Is it hard to run for Congress and joining districts with her?
You're like worse than me. I want to stick to
No, I'm just saying,
this guy doesn't do it, Cori Bush. Here's the question.
You want the federal government to do something, and you elect Cori Bush to Congress.
Let me tell you something. This got nothing to do with Cori Bush. There's a program I wrote about.
The site is in the first congressional.
Excuse me. First of all, the suffering is all over the district. It was in the second. So it's not a district. First of all, let's be clear. There's something called downwinders help that's been part of the federal government for 30 years. And this is something I wrote about in 2013. So I ain't coming along early. There's something called downwinders. So the people who were near the nuclear tests out in Nevada and all those places have for years been getting large amounts of compensation from our federal government, the one we pay taxes to, because of the damage done to them. For the first time ever, and I called for this in 2013, so it's not a campaign thing. I said, I wrote about the poisoned children of Coldwater Creek. And by the way, it's Weldon Spring, near where I live, and it's the Westlake land.
Where's Weldon Spring?
That's out in St. Charles County.
Okay.
And
is that by the Cracker Barrel there on 40?
I don't know what it's by. The Cracker Barrel that wasn't there where Pisa would get.
I'm just curious as to what part of town it's in.
It's out. It's out 40 across the Missouri River Bridge. There's the Westlake landfill where fires are burning under the landfill, and there's all kinds of radioactive waste. And there's Coldwater Creek, which affected 15 communities. Okay, let's not get to the weeds. Here's the bottom line, Scott. No one disputes this. Thousands of people have gotten serious cancers. I got a dear friend that's got MS working in my campaign. A lot of people, and the crime they committed as kids is they played in the creek. And what happened was when they built the Manhattan Project, built the bomb, they didn't know what to do with the waste. You know what they called it? They called it, this is the 40s. This is for me. They called it poisons, the radioactive waste. They didn't know what, they knew it was bad. They called them poisons. Put them in a big mound near the where the airport now is on Laddie Avenue. And the stuff blew into the creek.
I'm serious. Why did they move it from
Nobody
New
knows.
Mexico to Missouri?
It wasn't, they didn't move from New Mexico. It was built in St. Louis at the
Okay, so it was on site.
We were ground central for the secret building of the atomic bomb called the Manhattan Project in the 40s. Downtown and in Laddie Avenue, different places, the stuff got moved and dumped. They didn't know what to do with it. There was no airport out there at the time. And so bottom line is the stuff blew into the creek. This is stuff with half-lives of billions of years. This is really bad stuff. It got into the creek. And what happened is it took a while, but when kids that grew up in the creek, playing with crawdads, skipping rocks, swimming, they had their families had gardens that this blank blew up into and poisoned the food that they were feeding the kids. 20 years later, McClure North, they had a 20-year reunion. They realized their friends were dropping like flies. That's when I wrote about it, called The Poisoned Children of Coldwater Creek. It's a horrible story. And by the way, it's not the Republicans' fault, the Democrat. It's everybody's fault that was involved.
Okay, so there's a problem.
It's a problem. It's people continue to be suffering. So for the first time, we got a little bit of help. It was $4 billion with a B into our region. So not that little. To add on to, it's called RECA. You may have heard of it. That to add on to it's called the I forget the acronym, but the point is for radioactive waste victims, and we just got added on like the downwinder street, and it passed the Senate on March 7th that it passed, and Josh Hawley was the sponsor.
Sure. Look, I think Josh Hawley's done some good work calling attention to it.
I'm not a fan, but he didn't do good work. He did great work on this one. And so on March 7th, Ann Wagner came out. It was in the Kansas City Star. And she had said the same thing in December. She says, we're not about raising our federal deficits and debts. There's going to have to be a pay for this. She literally, instead of picking up the ball, which she could and should have done as a respected Republican in Congress, and said, we're getting this money for these suffering. And this is, keep in mind, this isn't pork. This is compensation. They're giving $25,000 to the family of people who died, $50,000 for people who are suffering today from not only cancer, but rare cancers and all kinds of horrible cancers, because this stuff is so horrible. Instead of taking the ball and running for it, she says, no. And so what happened was Josh Hawley called her shameful. That night, he went off on her. He said, she's shameful. Now, in my mind, if Josh Hawley calls you shameful, that's like Ozzie Smith saying you're good shortstop. I mean, he knows shameful. But I mean, the point is, Josh Hawley called her shameful. He's not running against her. They're in the same freaking party. He called her shameful, said Missouri can do better. All this stuff. It's pointed out she hadn't done anything for 12 years. And so my point is this. Now, that's pretty awful. And I will tell you, I go to Franklin County, talk about that, and they're still not happy about it. But in Oakville, they're not happy about it.
Okay, so I get what you're saying.
Okay, but let me.
You wanted her to be more proactive.
No. But let me tell you what's worse. What's worse? I won't say it's worse, but it's different, and it tells you something to my point. You know what she did? She changed her position quietly. She did not pick up the ball and run. She had the audacity to say, well, Cori Bush should carry this in the House. Cori Bush is going to, a member of the squad, a Democratic squad is going to carry this in the House, the Republican House. So she doesn't pick up the ball. She doesn't advocate.
Okay, but let me just,
I got to finish one thought and I'll shut up. 2 weeks, I probably won't.
I love the fact that he thinks he has not finished his thought. That's why I love Ray Hartman. 2
weeks later, you know what she did? She voted for the aid. And she came out, and I got to give her credit. She got headlines. You know what she said? She was out. The headlines say, Ann Wagner's outraged. What was she outraged about? That the House voted the way she said they should 2 weeks earlier. 2 weeks, not 2 years, not 2 decades.
Okay.
2 weeks.
So,
and so my
they
point
didn't
is,
vote to do this, right?
And then it killed it. And so now they're still trying to bail it out. And I was at a hearing on this. I was at one in Washington, D.C., a news conference, and I went to one in North County. And I want to tell you, people are angry, but they're angry for two reasons. I think one is it's part of not having those town halls, Scott. She's not connected to the people of her district. And this is no time to be doing some fiscal conservative argument when you got people suffering in your own district and the community.
Well, there are no fiscal conservatives. That's all.
But she did. Over. And the point is, but it just not quite as bad, but more telling is that instead of doing what I did for all those years, or you do, and that is, you say something wrong, you admit it. Not only did she do that, but she pretended she never said it. And it goes back to my point when we're talking about Donnybrook, is people want someone they can trust. If they say something, at least, unless you happen to do a mea culpa and say, they know you mean it. And you don't say one thing 1 minute and the next minute, you remember when they were having that battle over Kevin McCarthy where they were lynching him in the House and they were trying to find a speaker? And the media, this is a good example. It's not important, but it's a good example.
All right, let me ask you this. Is running with Cori Bush tough?
I don't run with Cori Bush.
I mean, you're a Democrat.
I'm not running with her. She's got a primary with Wesley Bell.
It's a total joke to think she could get money from the federal government for something. Even the KSDK called her after saying she brought money home. Is that, people ask you about that? Is it getting distance?
I have literally, and I'm not in the media anymore, right? I changed bottom feeder professions. I went from media to politics.
You found the only one lower, maybe.
I told McClellan, I said, Bill McClellan, one of my dearest friends, were on the show 37. I said,
I've been
a bottom feeder in the media all these times, and what am I going to do? I got to find something else. I mean, I can't be like a scientist or a doctor or a surgeon or something. I got to find something. So I just did it was a little swim along the bottom of the tank. And I said, I couldn't decide between politician and telemarketer. And then somebody pointed out, when you're a politician, you are a telemarketer. So, well, that works. So, no, I don't think that, I really believe that for people, I was starting to tell you, she came out, remember that big fight the Republicans have? And somebody set up Jim Jordan. And this is all in the national media. They asked Ann Wagner, are you a no on Jim Jordan? And she says, I'm a hell no on Jim Jordan. That's great.
That's the Ann Wagner I know.
4 days later, count them 4, she became the first hell no on Jim Jordan to flip to Jim Jordan. 4 days. Right. And my point, the
Coldwater Creek thing I get, but do you think there's anybody in New Haven that knows who that is? They think it's probably Michael Jordan's dad.
I'm not talking about, I'm making the point here that you can't, she has become, I don't think she started out this way, but she's become that classic politician who will say whatever she needs to say to get elected. She's saying whatever.
But there was one time
she wasn't always
you were
like
going to run for office and not say anything bad about Ann Wagner.
Yeah, and I'm not actually. You're right. Well, no, and you're right. But I will say this: I'm not. You're not saying vicious about her. It's just her performance in Congress. I ain't saying bad about her personally, and she's a very nice person. My point is, I am talking about the issues, and the issue in this case is she has not represented people.
Number one, next time you're in Franklin County in Washington, go downtown and go to Marquardt's Landing. Steak sandwich, wonderful.
Marquardt's Landing. I will.
Marquardt's Landing, wonderful thing.
Daniel and I, who's here tonight, will go grab it. Marquardt's Landing.
Marquardt's Landing,
steak
wonderful sandwich, place, right there on the river. Number 2, what's the number one thing you're hearing in St. Louis County folks talk about? What when you go to an event, what's on folks' minds?
Well, it depends on what folks. I go to a lot of different kind of groups. I would say that for people politically active, it's women's rights. I mean, it's abortion. I would say that's the number one thing. I think and that would be the big one. I would say Trump is on the minds of a lot of Democrats.
What do folks say when you say, well, okay, the woman, your heart goes out to a woman, and if she's considered an abortion, it's not because I always have a problem with conservatives that say, oh, women just get an abortion on a lark. I don't believe that. I think it's a serious decision that has lifelong ramifications. What do you say to a person that says, well, what about the baby? What about the child?
I say that that we have we don't need a state religion just telling us when a child becomes a child. And one of the things is back to that question that thankfully Nikki Haley articulates: is an embryo is a person. Now, most people don't even realize there isn't such thing as a fetus till 9 weeks. An embryo becomes a fetus at 9 weeks of pregnancy. And so
there's some science you get into birth control and stuff. You take that too far, you can get into some really odd areas.
And that I will say, if you want to talk about what people are talking about more than abortion, is the Republicans, from all accounts, are hostile to birth control. And by the way, in Missouri,
do people believe that? It may be true, but do people believe
yes, I mean, they are. Well, Donald Trump pretty much said it out loud. But the point is, yes, here's the problem with it. Scott, if you start going down, Ronald Reagan, the genius, the political genius of Ronald Reagan was to run against abortion, but not govern against it. Okay. They don't want to get into
Bill Clinton, safe, legal, and rare. I think that's, if you had to ask you where are Missourians, I think Missourians.
That's right.
Bill Clinton, safe, legal, and rare.
That's right.
And I think
that's right.
I think that most Missourians would say, okay, having an abortion for simply social reasons or less than tragic reasons is wrong, but I don't think the government should make it totally illegal.
And my point is, I stopped short of deciding what's right or wrong.
Well, we all decide what's right or wrong for ourselves.
For ourselves, right? Yeah. I'm not a woman. You're not a woman.
I think it's wrong. But
that's good.
Boy, should it be legal?
Good.
That's tough.
Well, and you know what? One of the issues when I go to night talk in Franklin County,
and it's easy for me to say,
but I'm doing a community college. I told you before we came on the air that I just love the program. It's 5 minutes. You can't say anything bad about your opponent.
You've got to stop by State Tech when you go. You take 50. You're going to take 50 to get to Union. Okay. Lynn, Missouri, just on the east side of town. State Tech, the only college there's never been a protest. Okay, them kids are busy working. They ain't got time for that shenanigans.
Here's the deal. Where am I eating it tonight? With a steak?
Marquardt's Landing.
Marquardt's Landing. I'm eating Marquardt's Landing. That's all I'm planning on. But let me tell you, when I talk tonight, it's 5 minutes. Can't mention your opponent, and it's fine. And you know what I'm going to talk about there? The Labadie plant, the Ameren Electric.
Goddamn hippies are trying to make power so expensive. My God.
Okay, it's got the distinction of being the most pollutant coal plant in the country,
and it would be the cleanest plant in China.
A lot of people,
damn hippies
a lot of people want to see it not polluted.
Not anybody that wants their electric bill to stay low.
No, not please. I'm just telling you, folks. They want other forms of electricity. They don't want no electricity.
All that hippy stuff's fine, but by God,
my point is, people care about that.
Kel, you want to pay higher or lower electric bills?
Right.
I prefer the lower one.
Good. Okay.
You like Labadie too, with me.
Okay, Labadie. All right, is it Labadie?
Why don't all the hippies pay extra electric bills and buy them some wind farms?
I'm telling you, a lot of people care more about the air they breathe than their ideological. I think one of the things politicians make, an error I'm seeing that they make on both sides of the aisle, is they think that voters have a list of issues that they're going to vote on. Now, there are some single issues. I think
you're right about that.
There's some single issues. I'm not saying some people don't vote one way or another about abortion, guns, but for the most part, the ones that are going to matter to my election are the people who want to elect somebody who shoots straight with them and who cares about them, who they can trust to say something and believe it, and who cares about what they care about. When I told you I had people, I asked people. So somebody comes up to me, and I've had this happen a lot of times. Somebody says, I like Donnybrook, but I'm on the other side. And I always say, what do you mean? And they say, well, I'm for Trump. I said, okay. And I said, well, what do you look at? And my standard question is, what are you looking for in a member of Congress? Without exception, they say someone who cares about local stuff. They don't talk about.
Really?
Yes, they say that. Well, I'm not trying to say I've done it with 1,000 people.
Is there a difference? I'm so interested in that.
They care about stuff that matters.
Is it a difference? Do you hear that more in St. Louis County?
All three. And I haven't been in Warren. I have to admit, I haven't campaigned much, in Warren County, but in.
Oh, when you go Warrensburg, there's a little place called the Hideout. It runs just to the south side. The great little. I'm serious.
I'll go.
You need to go.
But there's two. It's like 2%. But the point is, the district, seriously, and I think I mentioned to you, it's more. St. Charles County is not nearly the part of the district it used to be. It's just a little more than in Franklin. In Franklin and in St. Charles County and in St. Louis County, all three, I've had multiple people in all three say, I'm voting for Trump, but I'm going to vote for you. And they say the same thing. I know I don't see our congresswoman, and I want somebody that goes fight for me on the issues. Okay. And that's now, am I going to win? I ain't making any predictions, but you're asking me how I'm running this campaign.
Well, I love hearing you're out talking to folks, and I love hearing what folks are saying, but I got to do a little business here. My buddy got me this right here. I'm going to break in some cards talk. Brad from Columbia sent this to me. My buddy Ray Bozart, thank you so much. He gave me this. This was a Larry Walker gift. They played the Rockies.
Ooh.
He's taking his jersey off for the Rockies, putting it on. Thank you, Ray. I sure appreciate the gift. And also, when you're out and about, look at this. Now, Ray, when you're campaigning, you go to co-op meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Every co-op has an annual meeting. It's usually the first weekend in August after the primary. I want you to think when you're at a co-op meeting, you're never going to see a co-op gift like this. From United Fiber up in the great Northwest in Savannah, Missouri, they give these cast iron skillets. I'd give you one of these, but I'm afraid you'd get it used on you. So I better not.
I'll take one of those.
And then I always got to think when you come to town. So when you come back and you're filing for re-election, you're going to stay at the Courtyard by Marriott, the best hotel in Jeff City. So this is a gift to me. This is a commemorative Stein from the '82 World Champion St. Louis Cardinals. I have a proposal that you would think Ray and I, being friends as long as we have, and having, I would say, generally different political philosophies, but really they're more alike than you think. I don't know what that says about either one of us.
Yeah, okay.
Probably nothing good about me, but we talk about funding for Busch Stadium. I think it's a crime how little we invest in our state's greatest resource, the St. Louis Cardinals. I think it's shameful, but I have a proposal even you could get behind.
Right.
So the Cardinals said they need $50 million from the state, right, to renovate Busch Stadium, which would you miss Medicaid if it was gone for a month? I wouldn't, but I would sure love a refurbished Busch Stadium. So I have a plan that I've thought a lot about this, Ray.
Yeah.
We've been talking about you coming on since you came over and filed. I'm so excited to present this to you. So the Cardinals want $50 million. We say, okay, fine. We're going to put that in escrow for 5 years. And we're going to give you X amount of dollars for every playoff win, X amount of dollars for every series win, NLCS. And if you win the World Series, we'll give you $100 million. Prove me wrong. Welcome to the team.
Do I get a cast iron pan?
Yeah, you totally do. You totally do. Here.
No, I don't want
On behalf of the Cardinals
no, thank you
and
very
a
much.
grateful nation.
Boy, it's that nice cast
I
iron
told
pan.
you. Now,
United Electric Co-op.
Yeah,
Nice pan.
you're going to see Ray at a campaign event with his wife clocking that United Electric. He'll have the grooves in his forehead. So let's just say,
I think
it's performance based. It's about winning, economic development. Now, St. Louis is the greatest city in the world when the Cardinals are in the playoffs.
You know, I never want to say I'm a politician. Let me just say I'm going to take that under advisement.
I'm going to before the.
I'll do it. Okay,
You will be asked this again.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm in.
You're welcome, President DeWitt.
I'm in.
Playoff wins, World Series win, you get double.
You know, getting your endorsement like I'm getting today, that's cool. That's good enough. I mean, that's worth the trade.
You know, you brought up the lack of world championships.
I did.
And,
there you go.
I'm a single
goal.
issue voter. People wonder why folks are for abortion, maybe in limited in some way, and they vote Republican for pro-life candidates. I think you're totally right. That list, that is single issue voter list, it's a cocktail. Abortion's in that cocktail of decisions for folks. But for the pro-life folks, it's always been one thing. They've been much better at having a block of votes. Now, I think the pro-choice folks have been gaining, and now the intensity's on their side. So it's going to be interesting to see. All right, I have to, Kelton, we have a graphic to put up. I'm going to show you this, Ray. I actually did Donnybrook a few times.
Yes.
So, Kelton, can you put on the screen here? This is one of the responses they sent in the following week. Kelton's going to put that up for everybody to read. Right, Kelton? Well, Kelton's theoretically going to put that up for everyone to read. It says, I turned Donnybrook off when I saw Mr. Faughn sitting at the table. I find him a You're a good judge of character. I'm not going to lie. So if you're campaigning in New Haven, you run into Mr. Bell. He is a Donnybrook watcher. And I'm going to say from that response, probably one of your voters. I think he's yard sign material.
He's actually, I didn't want to say this publicly, but he's actually the chair of New Havenites for Ray. But I don't want to embarrass Mr. Bell. That is a big group, you know, and one of the slogans I'm working on is vote for Ray and clear your calendar for October 25. Because that's when the Cardinals are going to be in the World Series.
That's a pro, folks. We're not going to top that. Ray Hartman running for Congress, 2nd Congressional. Thank you so much for the time,
Hey, it's a lot of fun. I really appreciate you having me on.
Let's go eat lunch. We'll see y'all back here Wednesday. Kelton, come back here Wednesday for a This Week in Missouri Politics midweek update, and we'll see you Sunday.
I'm coming back here Wednesday.
Well, you're welcome
Oh.
anytime. You know that we'll just start our own.
Did I talk too much?
Well, Ray, you know the answer to that question. We'll just start our own little Donnybrook West over here, Enclave on KMOS.
I'll come up anytime.
Guys, thank you so much, George. We'll see you Wednesday around 11, and we'll see you Sunday.